Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bro, I have no idea what episode we're on. Do you know? I
We haven't even uploaded the last one we recorded yet.
don't. I don't know what that one
We
was
could just
either.
delete that one, couldn't we?
Um,
We could
but
pretend that one
anyway,
never existed.
yeah, would would people miss
Probably
out?
not.
That's the question.
It wasn't that exhilarating.
No,
It was probably
no.
probably safer to delete that one actually, considering it got a bit
Uh,
political. Better for our reputation. You might be going back
well,
to the goal.
you know what? Actually, there was there was parts of it. You just reminded me. Actually, I'm gonna check some parts of it before we put it out. Yeah,
Okay.
just to be safe. Yeah. You know what? Before we get into that main topic, I wanted to share something. I saw
Yeah.
this vlog yesterday by this rapper. What's his name? Ads. He looks like he's like British
Right.
London, South London, I think. He's full of tattoos,
Uh-huh.
full of tattoos, and even he's got a crucifix tattoo on
Okay.
his cheek.
Is he?
Okay,
Let me
that
look at
level.
him.
Yeah.
Ads.
But he's Muslim.
Ads
He became
rapper.
Muslim, mashallah.
Okay. Very many tattoos, yes. And his
You
hair is
see what I'm
covering
talking
his
about?
face. I can't see the side one. But anyway, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so he's like got a YouTube channel, he's like vlogging or whatever. So he became Muslim, I think like 10 years ago or something. So he's like a full on like rapper. I'm not sure, like it seems like he goes pretty hasn't quite left the
Okay.
Jahiliyyah lifestyle, let's say. But I really like this vlog, bro, where he's like, look, it's Ramadan. He like at the beginning of the vlog, he went to the jeweler, his jeweler, and he's like talking about, he's talking about adding all these diamonds
Okay.
to his chain and stuff. But then he's like to his jeweler, he's like, look, bro, Allah blessed you, bro. He's like, I'm gonna give
Oh,
10K
I
to
think I've seen
Lewisham
this.
Mosque.
Yeah,
Will
yeah,
you
yeah.
match
I
it?
didn't know who he was.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then he pressures the
Yeah,
guy on camera to
yeah,
give
I did see
10K.
that.
and then and then he's like mashallah, he's like mashallah, mashallah, mashallah. He's like, I'm giving 10K. I got him to give 10K. He's like, I'm gonna find someone else to give 10K. We're gonna give 30K to the masjid for the to build their extension or something. And then he just like going around. I think he was, well, yeah, he was like meeting some
Yep.
fans for iftar. So he was like inviting them to iftar, and there was even a non-Muslim guy who came, and he's like, you can come to the meetup, but you have to fast,
Yeah, yeah,
even though this guy's not Muslim. Yeah, he's like, you have to fast. Um, and then he was just like throughout the vlog, he's just talking about how Islam is like the best, is so important, and he's like, even though I don't like live that proper lifestyle fully, but in
yeah.
Ramadan I always try and this and that. And he was saying that when he was young, I think he was like teenager, and he actually came across Islam and he believed in
Mm.
it, but he didn't become Muslim yet. And then he said, someone told me, is it better to die as a non-Muslim or as a bad Muslim? And then he's like, yeah, that was the day that I took my shahada. And yeah, it seems like I said, he admits he's not perfect whatsoever, but it's just so it was so endearing to see someone like that who, I don't know, bro, is he like just like taking it easy, taking it too easy, or is he genuinely like
Yeah,
stuck in that life somehow? I'm not sure. But the fact that he could think of having some salvation by giving 10K to the masjid, and even in the restaurant, yeah, he went to the restaurant for iftar, and he went to the waiter. He's like, okay, we're gonna pay for all these people's food. He's like, yeah, those sisters with the hijab, yeah, those ones with the hijab, hijab, hijab. Those ones are hijab only. um, but you see what I mean? Like, he's
yeah,
just a good guy trying to do good things, and the fact that Allah might forgive that guy, um, just because he took his shahada, he's trying to do
yeah,
some good things. Maybe it's just in Ramadan. Maybe it's like he's given to the masjid, this and that. Like, Allah could forgive him. He could. He's actually he's in what's they call it? Not in the race, but
Yeah.
in contention for the shafa'ah of the Prophet ﷺ, or the shafa'ah
Yeah.
of even Allah, or like sometimes you're not very good Muslim, but just because you're Muslim, you get to that. You could go Yawm al Qiyamah and someone would
Absolutely.
intercede for you, right? Or the Quran could intercede for you, the Quran or the Prophet ﷺ, or even I just learned this about a month ago. Like Allah can intercede for you. Can you imagine? Ar-Rahman can intercede. If Ar-Rahman can intercede, bro, we're
Inshallah.
sorted, inshallah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's good to have that perspective, isn't it? And also like a bit of self-reflection because I don't know what he does apart from music, like you've mentioned, but some people might look at him and think, oh, bad Muslim music and all that stuff, that lifestyle. But there's a lot of practicing Muslims that actually commit way graver sins,
Yeah.
kaba'ir, whether it's like shirk or something. Do you know what I mean? It could be a mushrik
Sure,
or
yeah, yeah.
committing shirk. Yeah,
Yeah. Or
absolutely.
inheritance stuff
But
or
they might have the beard and they might pray 5 times a day and all this stuff that on the outward appearance looks, I don't know, better than a rapper. Allahu alam. But yeah, so it's
yeah.
important. But we have different hierarchies, don't
Yeah.
we? We
Yeah.
look at
Yeah.
something, we can go, oh, that's bad. Oh, that's not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, ultimately it's about judging based on
Mhm.
what Allah has given us. That's the best thing. But obviously we get sometimes our own biases or influences. It reminded me of the ayah in Surah At-Tawbah. I just brought it up. What أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. وآخرون اعترفوا بذنوبهم خلطوا عملا صالحا وآخر سيئا عسى الله أن يتوب عليهم إن الله غفور رحيم. So, what's the translation of that? Basically, Allah's talking about. I think He's talking about
Mhm.
the like very very good Muslims. Yeah, السابقون الأولون من المهاجرين والأنصار, and then Allah talks about the munafiqun, and then Allah's talking about another category, which is, and others they acknowledge their sins and they mixed good deeds with bad deeds. عسى
Mm.
الله أن يتوب عليهم. May that Allah may forgive them. And then Allah says, Inna Allah ghafurun rahim. So, interestingly, actually, the ayah, you know what the ayah after that is? خذ من أموالهم
Hey,
صدقة
hey.
تطهرهم وتزكيهم
Allahu
بها.
Akbar. Allahu Akbar. There you go. Make want to give some
Yeah,
charity now.
yeah. And this guy go around throwing,
Absolutely.
yeah. Obviously, that's about zakat, but yeah,
Absolutely.
still sadaqah, yeah. Cool, bro. Now, what was the topic we missed out on
Drum
last
roll, please.
time?
No, it's just I have a curious cat sitting on my Twitter, right? And I get a load of questions, and I do answer them, although sometimes they build up.
Yeah.
I've actually answered all of them at the moment, but I don't feel like I've given them as much effort as I probably could if I actually sat down and thought about it. And I thought, not that the people are probably going to even see this, the people that asked it, because once I've answered it, they might not even check again. But it might benefit others because a lot of people probably have the same problems. So a lot of them are revolving around marriage and stuff. But I think what we'll do, I'll just go through the recent ones and try and pick out ones that might be somewhat relevant. I haven't checked our own one for a while. Actually, no, I checked it last week, but that hasn't got anything on it for a long time. Let me see. Yeah, I forgot we had
I
one.
forgot we
Yeah,
even had one, to be
because
honest.
I got logged out of a lot of stuff and I haven't logged back in for a while. So. Uh, Here we go.
I wonder why you got
Um,
logged out of a lot of stuff.
Something happened. Something happened. Anyway, um, right. Here's one. So this one's about a lot of them are going to be about marriage and stuff related to marriage. But here we go. We've got. What are your thoughts on mahr? My principle is that I will only pay for the sunnah amount as I am resolute in being the sole provider of the family and do not expect anything from my wife. Am I wrong in this approach? I don't think it's reasonable to make things complicated by asking for 5k plus gold plus XYZ, etc. Now, I'll tell you what my answer was, and then we can get your. It wasn't that long. I just wrote a little
Ooh.
bit because I had too many to do and not enough time.
Yep. Let me guess. Mohammed's gonna give the white knight answer.
Thanks for that.
Yalla.
No, I said it should be. I said it should be enough to make you work somewhat for it, but not so high to ruin you financially. Okay, and that's
Mm.
like tailored to them. And I said I gave
Yeah.
my sort of like what I paid, and I said I was working part time at the time, and I was finishing up on uni, so it was like the last year of uni. So it took me some months to save, but it also allowed me to prove my commitment without being an unrealistic prospect. And I finally said, if she's worth it within reason, then it's worth pursuing. I think that was a balanced answer. Um, what do you think?
Hmm. Yeah, that
Hey,
wasn't
whatever
so
she
much white knight.
wants. Go
I
for
made a
it.
video actually about this. No, look, bro, it's all a. I was gonna say it's a negotiation, but it's not really because there's a lot of factors involved. It's not just like she's sitting there and saying, "Yeah, I would like this."
Hmm.
It's often her mom or her dad or whatever, more her mom, I suppose, who is influencing this. Um, I think the whole thing, the whole thing of I'm only gonna pay the sunnah amount. I would say that's wrong, because if we want to go down that route, there are so many things that we could insist on doing the sunnah thing, right? Either where you would have to do less or you would have to do much more than you're doing. So, is that really the standard that we constantly always holding ourselves to or holding other people to? It's probably not that you're holding yourself to that in everything. So why are you insisting on that for when you get married? Doesn't make sense fully to me. Um, Look, man, I don't really think about people think about mahar too much when they're not married. Like they think about like, oh, how much should I pay? Should I not pay? I think it's something to think about when you get to the point where they've actually mentioned a mahar amount. Of course, you might want to have some principles before that, but it's just like it's not as important
Hmm.
at all as you might think. It's like by the time you've got to the point where they're asking for a mahar, you're gonna like probably be very serious and interested
Yeah,
about marrying this woman. Um, and then it's like, okay, so if you're really serious and you think she's good, then then what's the mahar? And let's say the mahar is something you can afford, but it's quite a lot. I think I would just pay that. It's quite a lot, but you can afford. Like it's
yeah,
more than the average for the society, but you can afford it. Then just be like, fair enough. If they didn't ask for that amount kind of out of arrogance or out of like, yeah, like some
yeah,
sort of pride or something, then it's just like, by the way, even if they did ask for out of pride, if you can afford it and you really want to marry this woman, then so be it. It's not a problem. The problem is for those that can't afford a certain mahar.
mm,
That is really the actual problem, right? How do you define can you afford though? That's, I guess, a good
yeah.
question. Maybe I don't know. People don't save too much money, I suppose, in reality. But like, I don't know, bro. What do you think? Like, let's say your savings was like 4K savings, and then the mahar's 4K. Like, that's probably
Um,
excessive, right? For the person who
I
saved that much
think
money.
I think it's difficult. Like you said, it's difficult to talk about this topic before knowing who the individual is, because it's like I don't want to make it like a commodity, but you're purchasing something without knowing what the product is. Is it worth it, so to speak? And also, the way people talk about mahar is,
But that was my point, bro. That
yeah,
we only talk about mahar when we're
yeah.
pretty
But
certain we
the
want
way
to
they
marry the
talk about
person in
it,
the first place. Yeah.
like when I was asked or told about the mahar amount, I remember having an immature reaction to it, even though, like now looking back,
Mm.
and even shortly after when I was good and brought to my senses, I was like, oh, that was actually um, very, very generous of them. And um, I think it's because I'd never really had that amount of money sitting in my account before. But I could have easily, if I just put my head to it, and I can't remember who explained it to me, but it was just, I remember enjoying the process of saving for it because I felt like I was working towards,
Mm.
this achievement, right? Um, and also
Yeah.
because I knew my wife was a good person, and I knew that. We were very family orientated in our goals. That money wasn't leaving our family. It wasn't like getting sent off and none of us would ever see it again, or was being given to the parents. It was something that was going to stay in my wife's account, and she could then use it for whatever she wanted to, which therefore benefits me because she's happy. She's in our house, happy. If she wants something, she's happy. It's not like this
Hmm.
tax that you're paying to the government just to get married or something along those lines.
Yeah, it's not like
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
versus
So,
someone. Yeah.
if anything, it's like, part of your. But on the flip side, what I will say is that I have seen discourse about this online, and I have seen women's discourse where they're like, "Oh, you might see a list floating around. I've seen it on Twitter where there's like a requirement list, and it's like 50K this and a car and a house and a this and a that, and that feels very detached from the relationship and the family structure to me. That feels like whilst I'm married to you, I'm going to have all of this stuff going on. That's nothing to do with you, right? Like I'm gonna have my own car. That's nothing to do with you. I'm gonna have 50K in my account. That's nothing to do with you. I'm gonna have, and that doesn't feel very collaborative to me. That doesn't feel like a family that's about to embark on or a couple that are about to embark on a journey together. That feels like you're getting paid to work from home, almost. You know what I mean? It doesn't sound very collaborative or cohesive to
Yeah,
me. And I
yeah,
think,
yeah. I mean, anyone with a list like that, I think they're probably about 5 years away from getting married.
yeah, I
They're
mean, you'd
definitely not
want to.
ready in the
I'd
Moed state.
assume that if that somebody's good has come, you want to have a level of security. I appreciate that, but not so much that the security you want is throwing distrust in the person that you're marrying. Like, oh, I need the security because I don't really trust you,
Yeah,
you know, and that can come off the wrong way as well. So I think ultimately, yeah, just
yeah,
you should be able to look at your finances, and if you're, the wali of somebody, you should be able to look at their finances and just assess what kind of job do they have? What's the kind of going rate for that? Use a bit of intuition to think, what could this person reasonably afford,
yeah.
and go from there.
Yeah, exactly. I think, bro, it's mostly to do with
Hmm.
affordability for the person, right? So, like, I know some guys, they might want to go into this with the mindset of we have to break these certain societal norms. I appreciate that. I just feel like if you find someone you really want to marry, then, and the mahar is something you can afford, I don't know, I don't see a reason to beef over it. If you can't afford it, I do recommend you actually say, look, I want to marry your
Yeah,
daughter. I can't afford that. You know, I think that should be made normal, made more normal. Actually, it was Ali bin Abi Talib when he was marrying.
yeah,
He said, "I don't have." The Prophet ﷺ suggested a
yeah,
mahar to him, and he
yeah,
said, "I don't have." And then he said, I think he said, "Then what about this?" He said, "I don't have." Then he said, "What about your armor or your shield?" And
mm.
then he gave her the shield. So I do think that is a hard thing to say, of course, but that if you want to like change society and you come to the point where there's a mahar you can't really afford it, then you just say like that would be the point where you stand up and you say, yeah, I can't afford it. It's not like, and it's not, I don't think it should be disrespectful or anything. It's saying, oh, it's too high. You're not saying it's too
Yeah,
high. You're saying
absolutely.
I cannot afford that. And yeah, that's from the perspective of the man going to get married. Obviously, if we talk about the father of the women, okay, that's something else. Like whenever we talk about yeah, make the marriage easy and the small mahar and the this and that, that is from the perspective of the girl's father. It's not really from the perspective of the guy getting married, is it? So, the guy getting married, he can't really focus on those kind of ahadith because he's not in that position right
Yeah,
now, is it?
absolutely. I suppose the only spanner in the works is when there is a bit of, you know, naughty dealings going on, and actually it's the parents dictating a mahar that they're going to keep, as opposed to giving to the daughter, if you know what I mean. So that some cultures, I think that can happen where the father might demand a mahar amount where he
Yeah, yeah,
takes either some or all of it, and the girl has no say, and that's why there's problems because she's not really too bothered about the mahar, but obviously her parents or her family are more concerned about it than she is, and that becomes a bit of a difficult
yeah,
conundrum to navigate.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I mean, again, though, that's not for the man to navigate. Like,
Absolutely.
he can't get into that, can he? That's their family dynamics. If he is in, let's say he's, I don't know, he gets to know from the girl or something that that's happening. I mean, all he can do is
It
tell
is what
her
it
that,
is.
you know, for example, they're asking for 10K. He can afford 4K. And like anyway, half of that 10K is like going to go to her mom or whatever. Well, if he could tell the girl like, I can afford this or I'm going to give this. The fact that your mother wants all of that,
Yeah.
that's for you to deal with
Yeah.
her. If you actually want us to get married, maybe, it's like that's your
Yeah. You've
internal
got to put the
dealings with
onus on
your
the girl a
family,
bit.
really. But part of that,
No, as in,
yeah, yeah. Because
yeah.
also it's kind of not your business. It's like, uh, look, like we could get married, but if you're gonna mess
Yeah.
this part up, then we're not gonna get married. I think you know, a lot of young men trying to get married when they're young, they have a lot of desperation about them. They have a lot of like seeking validation. But that's, if you can avoid that energy, definitely avoid that 100%. You have to come into the whole situation more like, I know what I'm doing with my life. I've got a plan. I might not have amazing money, but I've got a plan how I'm gonna do things, and I'm looking for someone this like this and this. And like, yeah, if it doesn't work, if we can't get past the mahar stage, we can't get past it. And only what Allah has written will happen, and you can have a bit of confidence in that. I think any wise father knows the value of a good, like honest,
Yeah.
sincere kind of man. So,
Yep.
should factor
But
that in.
yep, yep. I think we've answered that cohesively, actually. Um, okay, cool. Let's have a look at the next one.
So how
Okay.
how much did you pay? Oh, you don't want to share it. What percentage of
I don't
your
think I had
savings
much
was it? It was
savings at
all
the
your
time. No,
savings
but
at that
like
time.
I said, I was working part time in retail, and I was finishing uni. So I remember, but the thing is, it wasn't just mahar that I did. You know, there was mahar, there was a bit of jewelry slash gold. Um, there
Yeah.
was what else? I'm sure there was other bits and pieces. But like I said, I don't think I like all in all with everything together. I don't think it was more than £5,000. So that includes the wedding, the you know, and also I had a bit of a delay. So it was like a 2 year, 1 or 2 year process for me to actually get married, as opposed to like, yeah. So I
Oh,
think
yeah, I
during
remember
that
that. Yeah.
time, I had enough time and I had enough support from family and friends and whatever. And like I said, in retrospect, looking back on it, like if you were to ask me to pay that same mahar amount now in my certain situation, it would still take me a few months to kind of save that with all the expenses I have. But I wouldn't be like, not that I'm planning to
Yeah.
marry again, don't worry, that's what I'm trying to say. But yeah, it'd be like, yeah, I'd be like, okay,
You wouldn't
cool,
be
that's
spiteful.
my goal. Let's achieve it. But it's not something like this is going to take me 10 years or 5 years to do. No, it might take me the best part of a
Yeah.
year, but that's not the end of the world. But when you're younger and you're just got your eye on the prize, so to speak, that's probably all you can focus on. And you feel like any sort of hiccup is a hindrance. Um, and that speaks a lot to the psyche of a young man more than anything. Uh, the impatience and that kind of thing. Um, and this constant. We'll get into it because some of the questions actually go into this. So let's get into the other questions because you might. Let me scroll down.
All right.
Let's keep going. Actually, this one is a good one, but I think I only answered one half of the question. Basically, they asked two questions one after another, and I answered the second part without the first part. So essentially, I think it's a woman or a girl or whatever who is like growing really anxious with the fact that she's only getting older and she's not getting any interest in any men whatsoever, right? And she thinks that she's never gonna
Mm.
basically get married because no one's gonna find her attractive or whatever it is. And then that was the first part. And then the follow up was she said, follow up from my last question. I feel helpless because I still want to get married and feel loved. I've never experienced male attention before and I just want it to be in halal and all this rejection is killing me. And um, so that's the kind of the gist of it, right? And then I think I wrote, I wrote, so my response was like, it sounds like
Yeah.
Allah has tailored this test to you. And there's a verse from the Quran, can't remember what surah it was now, 14:7. And remember when your Lord proclaimed, if you are grateful, I will certainly give you more. But if you are ungrateful, surely my punishment is severe. So I said, count your blessings and drown your days of dua. You can stop looking for a partner, but you might actually end up meeting, your destiny when you try and avoid it. And what is written for you may come. So any anxiety about that is only a deficiency in the trust in Allah. There's plenty of people who've been in worse situations who have been blessed with lifelong partners, and your time will come, inshallah. However, at the same time, it's not guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed in that regard. There are people that never get married. And that's what I meant when I said Allah's tailored this test to you. Because you could be, yes, realistically, let's not deny it, you could be someone who never gets married or never finds anyone. We're not going to deny that. Um, but at the same time, I was listening to one of Muhammad Tim Humble's tafsirs that he's doing of the Quran. And I remember him mentioning sort of a narration of the prophets of the time, the Sahaba, sorry, when the Prophet ﷺ essentially advised them that Allah will always answer your dua in multiple ways, whether He actually answers it with what you've asked for in this life, or He removes something bad that's coming to you, or He saves it for you as a light and a reward on the afterlife, right? And the Sahaba's response to that was, "Oh, we should continue making dua. We should just keep making dua for lots of things." And the Prophet ﷺ was very pleased with that response.
Yeah.
That was the right attitude to have towards it. So if you were to see and you were to be in Jannah, seeing that dua that you'd made, the result of that dua that you'd made, you would be so happy that you'd actually didn't get it in the dunya. You would be so happy that it was saved for you in Jannah, and you need to have true yaqeen that that is the way you're going to feel in Jannah, right? Like now. So now you should have it in your mind that try and train yourself internally that look, whatever may be will be. I'll continue making dua for this. I'll continue living my life, the best way I can. I will do things within my capacity to try and, find a spouse. But I also need to keep it in mind that Allah knows what's best for me. And if it's not for me in this life, then I shouldn't have any ill feelings towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that. And I should be positive about it. I think everybody's probably gone through a phase in their life where they thought, I'm never going to get married. I can't find anybody. Some obviously goes on for longer. And I don't know how old this
Yeah.
sister is, but that's the reality of the situation, I think. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, what you said, bro. Like, there's always, there should always be an assumption of positive outcome, I suppose. Should be husn al billah. So you expect that, yeah, I'm going to get married. I'm going to get married at a time that is good for me, and make dua for that and expect it to actually happen. And then just keep a little, a little pocket change of maybe I won't get married, but
Yeah.
alhamdulillah, either way, right? But mostly it should be optimism and expecting good from Allah. And then just with a bit of that humility that, yeah, maybe it's not good for me to get married, etc. Um, it is hard though, bro, because, I don't know, but me, I always feel there's a difference between making dua for a Lamborghini and making
Yeah.
dua to like get married. Like one thing is, dunyawi indulgence, just material
Yeah.
thing, just for my own kind of desires. And one thing is, for the sake of Allah, really, a lot of the time, it's like, yeah, Allah,
Yeah.
save me from the fitna of not being married and let me get married. And like, it's like, you're asking Allah for the thing. But obviously, we know that it doesn't work like that. Just because you want something with a good intention, it doesn't mean that it's the best for Allah to give it to you now. Doesn't mean that Allah will give it to you, should give it to you, etc. But it's just, I empathize with wanting to do something
Yeah.
good and then it not coming. But this is where humility kicks in and where we say, look, I don't know. I don't know what's good for me. I don't know when is the best time for me. And I don't know if, like, I don't know if like I deserve this, or if if maybe this is a test that I have. Maybe this is cleansing me from sins I've done. This difficulty here. So there are many options to it, but I guess the
Hmm.
underlying thing is humility. But then also, bro, like, yes, you need to keep making dua, you need to have optimism, but you need to take action as well. Um, as we know, for example, the when Allah was like guiding Musa away from Pharaoh, he told him to strike his staff on the floor, etc. So there is action to take. Allah could have opened the sea, but
So
he told Musa
just to
to
jump
strike
in
the
there,
ground. So
I can imagine men taking action, and I know what that looks like, but I don't know what woman taking action would look like. School me.
well, let
I
me
need it.
school you, brother. um, Look, women actually maybe what's the word? As contrary to
Hmm.
common opinion, um, I think women should do more than what maybe they think they should. Like, they need to be like active, bro, in the right places, doing the right things, so the right people become aware of them. And when I say people becoming aware of them, I don't mean
Yeah.
men even.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean women. I mean women. So if women don't even know about you, then
Mm,
it is difficult. You don't need to go out and to be striking your feet, as the Quran says, to attract
yes.
men's attention. It's not about that. It's about being
Community.
known in your community, probably mostly amongst women. If you go and volunteer at the masjid, certain, inshallah, good people will become aware that
Yeah.
you exist, even that you exist. When people know you exist, that's the first stage. Second stage, they know that you're not married. Third stage, they know, okay, you're a good person, you're volunteering at the masjid, or you're doing this at a charity, or you're doing
Yeah.
talab al-ilm, you're learning Arabic, you're doing stuff. And this could even happen online, I guess. You could be on a Arabic lesson online, and your teacher knows of you, and your teacher's like, "Hey, this guy's looking for marriage. Let me tell him about you." Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah.
there's plenty
Yeah.
you can
That's a
do
good point,
actually.
actually. Because I think there is that notion of, oh, sit at home and wait for the knight in shining armor to knock on the door, which they're not going to know who you
Mm.
are unless you have a decent reputation for yourself. Okay, we'll leave that one there because there's one that's similar to that, which I think came probably from a brother,
Mm.
and it says, where are we? Oh God. Here we go. What advice would you give to people who are giving up on the idea of getting married because they can't find anyone? So it sounds like I'm assuming this is from a brother's perspective because they're looking for people. The cliche line is that it'll happen when you
Mm.
least expect it, and maybe that is true, but it would be good to stop searching and direct their energy onto something else. So I took a bit of a different approach with this one. I said,
Oh yeah.
I find it extremely hard to believe people can't find anyone, taking that literally. I think it's more to do with being far
Oh.
too selective. I could be wrong, but many men I've spoken to are incredibly picky, always opining that someone better than the current potential could be right around the corner, crippling them into leading women
Mm.
on while staying forever single. Um, I think, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, well, sometimes
It's
they need
quite
a bit of a
judgmental.
slap to get themselves sorted. Um, but I
Yeah,
do think
some
that
people need that.
because
Yeah, I think it depends on your bubble.
I've just spoken, I've helped brothers get married, like not helped them, but like given them advice and whatever. Because they'll say, "Oh, I've got this potential or whatever," and I'll be like, "Okay, what's the dealio? Oh, there's this and this, but I'm not sure about this." Okay, fine. And then a few months later, there's somebody else, and then a few months later, there's somebody else, and a few months later, something else, and it's always like this really like I don't want to call it a poison, but you need to pick your poison. You need to just select what are the negatives that you're going to accept because nobody's going to be perfect. And everybody will have something or two
Mm.
things or three things that isn't great, but it's not the end of the world because there's generally a whole load of other things that are really positive. And this can happen to both, I'm assuming, boys and girls when they're basing a lot of their expectations on these figments of our imagination that exist either on social media or TV or movies or whatever it is, of like this perfect couple and this perfect kind of lifestyle, whether it's financially or whether it's actually, you know, in terms of activities that we're engaging in or whatever it is, or places we're going to travel to, etc., etc. And you know, the looks and I think someone else wrote it. Someone else actually asked a similar question. I'm going to add it on to this actually because I think it's relevant. Uh, ba, 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 ba. Wait, bear with me. Bear with me. Bear with me. Bear with me. Yeah, here we go. So, am I wrong in rejecting potentials because I don't find them attractive? I'm not looking for a 10 out of 10 woman because I believe that's a combination of personality, morals, and who they are. But lately, I haven't found that she's someone I can wake up to every day sort of person. So that kind of, I think we could throw that into this as well. Um, And then I said, you know, there's a lot I could say about this, but if you're not into someone, what can we do? Just know that physical appearance takes much of a backseat in the midst of other competing characteristics further into your marriage. And look, like I said, it's all of this like seeking perfection kind of thing. Someone else also asked, like, how do I know that the person is the one? That also could get thrown into this. So essentially, yeah, well,
Oh, that's
yeah,
dangerous.
exactly. Is there a one or is there four? I don't know. Is that even a concept that exists? But
Yeah.
yeah.
Not
What are
many.
your thoughts on like that kind of notion of like, is this person the right person, or shall I go and look for someone better? And that continual, perpetual kind of movement of like, oh, but there could be someone better. Oh, there could be someone better. Right? What are your
Mm.
thoughts on that?
Mm.
Yeah,
I'll
let's
give
do
you a
it.
business analogy. So, a lot of people they start a business with the goal of selling it eventually. Yeah, like this, the business is not there to just feed their lifestyle and they like make income from it. The goal is specifically in 3 years, 5 years, whatever. I want to sell this for a certain chunk of money. Now, advice that is often given when it comes to this is, if it's your first business, you know, you got something going with it. It's going somewhere. It's going pretty well, which is very hard to achieve. Um, and then you get an offer to buy you out. It could be,
Mm.
3 years in, it could be 6 years in, but you get an offer, and that amount of money, you know, maybe at that point you had a certain number in your head. Maybe you think the business is worth, you know, uh, 20 million, right? 30 million. You think it's worth that,
Yeah.
or it could be very soon worth that. But the common advice given is, when a dude shows up and it's your first
Yeah.
business and your first success, and he offers you a life-changing amount
Yeah.
of money, you
Yeah.
take it and you run.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You take it and you run. Now, what is a life-changing amount of money? I'm not talking about like, 300K, but I'm talking about like something that, I mean, assuming the business was on a good trajectory, the number a lot of people throw around is like 10 million. 10 million is like
Yeah.
where you wouldn't have to work ever again. Could also be 5 million, depending on your kind of situation. But if someone offers you that amount of money where you'll never have to work again, unless Allah wills, then just take it and run. Don't think about, oh, but this could be like this could be like this. Now, there are people, obviously exceptions, like, Zuckerberg, who turned down $1 billion from, who was it, Yahoo or something? He turned it down. And now Facebook is it close to $1 trillion worth? But regardless, most people, because they've got multiple businesses in them.
Yeah.
If you've got a business to a good level, then you can sell this one and you can actually start another one. And that other one that you start, you're going to be way more chill. You have that 10 million in the bank account.
Is
You're
this a
living,
polygamy
and
analogy?
now you can start another one. Now,
Start
do
another
it more
one.
chill. I wasn't even thinking like that.
Yeah.
No, because once you
Yeah.
sell, it's like that's over now, isn't it? You're not really working on that. So yes, so if we apply this to marriage, it's like, look, you need to know what your number is. So like with the business, like, okay, life-changing amount of money for me is 5 million. Okay, now when it comes to marriage, what is my criteria? That is my number. What is my thing? That if a woman meets this criteria,
Yeah.
that is what I'm looking for. That's good. Could it be better? Yes, but that's good. That's a suitable wife. We're looking for a suitable wife, not a perfect wife. We're looking for a suitable wife, a wife that will do what's on the label
Yeah.
or what's intended from it, if you like. So yeah, definitely. The guy in the front row, he's in the process of getting married, and mashallah, he even said it to me. He's like, you know what? There's nothing particularly wrong with her. That she meets all the kind of criteria. And then
There you
I was
go.
like, yeah, well, I think there was just one issue that they needed to clear up. But I'm like, yeah, if that gets cleared up, it's like
Absolutely.
good. And he's like, yeah, exactly. And
Yeah,
that's how a
absolutely.
clever guy gets
And if you
married,
were
I think.
to really, the fruits that come after that are really amazing, honestly, because you've left a lot of room to grow together. You've left a lot of room to develop more love and affection and care for that woman or that partner. But it works both ways. Whilst if you start at theoretically the top, right? If you start at a theoretical perfect level, you can only go down from there, right? Because all of that perfection that you built up doesn't isn't real, because whatever you think is perfect, a lot of it is probably half truths, and because nobody is. Okay, so you're like, oh, she's
Yeah,
perfect, everything, she's the one, and
yeah,
then slowly
yeah.
you, you're together for a bit, and then things start diminishing because, oh, well, there's
Mm.
this thing I didn't know about, there's this.
Yeah, the credit
Absolutely. But
rating
if you've got
agency
somebody like,
downgrades
okay,
you.
like 90% of my requirements are there, and there's this 10% I'm unsure about, you've got room there to find new things.
Better
Devil,
the
yeah,
devil you
maybe.
know.
But yeah, alhamdulillah, I think that's a good way to look at it. You've got to
Yeah, but you
be
know what I mean.
optimistic,
Yeah.
and you've got to take what you can get in this economy, man. So yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, but I don't even,
No.
by the way, see that as a compromise. Like, um, because also, for example, yeah, maybe people looking for the wrong criteria as well. So, for example, if my wife has memorized 2 juz of Quran
Mhm.
or 20 juz of Quran,
Yeah.
does that make her a better wife because she knows 18 juz Quran more?
Mm.
Like, no, not necessarily. So, so if they're like, when they're trying to look for someone, oh, but there's someone better and there's someone better, is that better in a criteria that's relevant to being a wife, or is it in just general, like status in society or status in front of Allah? If she has a high status in front of Allah, it's great, but we're looking for a wife specific. There's a specific purpose to this role. This
Yeah,
role
yeah.
is not an all-encompassing. I want a wife who's like my mom and my friend and my wife and my
And
all-in-one.
theoretically,
Like,
half
no,
this
we're
stuff
not
you can't
looking for
even
that.
verify until you're already there. There's a few things, general things that you can check beforehand,
Yeah.
but the stuff that really matters and that is important to you, you won't know until you're already there. Because even if you're discussing with her, and having a conversation before getting married, you don't know how much of what is being said is genuine truth and sincere or not. And I have, seen marriages where the person that was spoken has said completely false things to what the reality was of their lifestyle and what they actually used to. And that starts to show itself further down the line. So a lot of it is going to have to be a leap of faith and absolute tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and making dua that whatever's good for you comes to you and what's bad for you is pushed away. And that is a reality. It is a leap of faith for everybody, regardless of what you may think you know and don't know.
Hmm.
You judge by what's apparent and you keep it moving, bi'idhnillah. And some things are quite obvious, like, I forget myself, but like generally you might say, okay, I'm from this neck of the woods in terms of the world. This is my culture. I want someone with a similar culture to that. Oh, hey, look, there's this person who's born in, I'm North African, my wife's North African. That was one big thing kind of achieved, right? Because that kind of takes away a lot of like, and we were having this discussion yesterday, me and my wife, because she was telling me of a mixed marriage where there was like a cultural thing that was done that was really kind of foreign to us, and it ended badly because somebody got injured or whatever. It was just really bad. And I was just thinking, I said to my wife, look, imagine we never had to
Okay.
think about that, because a lot of our culture is very similar. Like there's nothing that you're going to come with that I'm going to say, whoa, what the hell is that? I'm going to at least have heard of it and be somewhat familiar with it, right? It's not the end of the world. And we obviously, that's one of the benefits. So that's something you can judge by what's apparent quite quickly. Other stuff, like I said, you're going to have to work on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Um,
Yeah. Actually, I was saying this as well the other day, that
Mm,
There's always a leap of faith, like you said, but the leap of faith could be minimized by
mm.
knowing what you're getting into. And like you said, when you share a similar background and culture, you know more what you're getting into. So the leap of faith
Yeah,
is smaller
yeah,
in
yeah,
that sense.
absolutely. Yeah, you've got to kind of pick your battlefield in that regard, don't you? You know what you do a bit of research on the arena, so there's not too many unknowns. And when you step into that ring, you know that it's not going to really go beyond the
Mm,
boundaries that you've kind of
mm,
expected. Okay.
mm,
Okay. This is probably going to be the last one on marriage, unless I see another one. But I think this one's quite relevant to a lot of guys. So, Salam Akhi, what if I want to get. Oh, where are I? Wait. Is this a follow up? No, I'll just read this one. What if I want to get married to fulfill my halal desires? I don't think I am ready for marriage since my financial situation is dire, but my needs are growing. I want to keep it halal. I'd smack the table, but I don't want to knock anything down. Um, so I gave a quick answer, which is fast and keep busy, start some new hobbies and distract yourself with that which is beneficial until the time comes, which is a quick advice, but I think there's a lot of weight to it if you really apply it. But yeah, what do you think of guys that like that is their
yeah.
primary reason? So they haven't got much of this emphasis on like I want to start family or I want a relationship with somebody where I can share life experiences with them and this journey with them. And the priority seems to be, at least vocally, they seem to predominantly talk about this. Oh, my desires, my desires, my desires. Right. What's your kind of view on that?
Mm. It's tough, bro, because these people actually have been let down by society. Because what should happen is your biology and your maturity should be in line. So, when you're, feeling those feelings, you should be mature enough to get married and be ready to get married. I'm not talking about financially. I'm talking about, just mentally mature, maturity wise, emotional maturity, which includes, the concept of having a family and taking responsibilities and stuff like that. If those things are not aligned, then that's what I'm saying. Society has failed you in a sense. Not to blame them, but it
Mm.
is reality, I think. So that's a shame, bro, and I empathize with this for sure. Um, I do think though, bro, like how long do people take to get married from when they really start trying till when they actually get married? Like it could easily be a year, 2 years, 3 years, right? Now, in that time, you can develop yourself
Yeah.
incredibly fast. You could go from the guy who just wants to satisfy his desires to the guy who's, yes, still really needs to satisfy his desires, but he's more family minded, he's more responsibility minded, he's more aware of what he gets into when he's getting married, and he's more mature. He's sought the advice of elders and people who are been married for a few years and stuff. So I think he should get married and he should try and get married, but in that period of getting married, there's a lot he can do to help mature himself and get him more in that mind frame. Why am I like even saying though that you need to be family oriented and think of responsibilities? Ultimately, because it's going to benefit you in your choice of a wife and then your marriage and your relationship and keeping it stable and ongoing rather than divorce and all of that or conflicts and all of that. So that's why I'm saying it. It would be better for everyone for you to go into it mature. Now, financially,
Yeah.
because that's what he said,
Yeah.
isn't it?
He
He said
said so. I
finances
think
is what's
I
holding
found
him
the
back.
question it might have been linked to. Um, there was another question previously that said, "What is the definition of a man that is ready for marriage?" I am late 20s, but I still feel like a boy, and linking that to maybe the fact that they're not financially ready, but also there's this overwhelming desire to get married for what seems like quite a singular reason, which is the desires thing, right? And it's about navigating those kind of aspects. So
Yeah.
still feeling young, still feel like I haven't got the finances, but I just need to get married. What do I do? You know, now, my
Yeah.
response to that bit,
I
my
mean,
response to that first
yeah,
question
go
was
on.
that
Mm.
I strongly believe that this is wait. I strongly believe that it is the culmination of responsibilities that makes a boy a man, not necessarily the age. So sure, like for myself, I still have youthful interests, but my responsibilities demand maturity, and it may be that you do not reach that level until you after you are actually married. And yeah, likewise, I think you can have a lot of mature young people because they dive headfirst into responsibilities. They have a lot of things they need to take care of. It doesn't have to just be job. It just could be, looking after family
Yeah.
members. Maybe they're the older brother, or maybe their mum needs help, or maybe their father needs help, or maybe whatever it may be. And I think that accumulation of responsibility is what makes you a man. I don't think many men that do get married feel that level of, oh, I'm a man now, until they've kind of, they've got a wife at home and they're holding it down, and then they have their first child and they've got mouths to feed, etc., etc. But the danger of having that singular reason of wanting to get married is that you remain in that single mindset of me, right? I want to get married because of my desires. And then you have a child. It's like, well, that's not really my priority. It's my desires that need to be satisfied. You have a wife to feed and to look after and to clothe. Well, as long as she provides for me and satisfies my desires, and it all revolves around you, when actually, and I mean, you'll be the first to say this, I'm sure, that really the man should be 9 times out of 10 the back of the line for everything that they're responsible for in the household. Like, my house needs to be in order,
Mm.
my kids need to be in order, my wife needs to be in order, and then I can think about what I might need, because I can go without, but they can't necessarily go without because they rely on me to provide it for them, right? And I think that's the mindset you should have
Yeah.
generally.
As they attribute to the Prophet ﷺ,
Hmm.
Sayyidul Qawmi Khadimuhum, the leader of a people is
Mm.
the one who serves them. Um, I don't think the Prophet ﷺ authentically said that, but the Prophet ﷺ did say, um, oh, what was it? The bit, I can't remember the wording, but it's basically the one serving the water is the last one to drink,
Okay. Okay.
something like that, which is kind of similar meaning. Um, so yeah, definitely, I agree. Generally, it's like that. Um, I think men sometimes need to put more effort to like serve, whereas a woman who's feeling secure and stable, she'll serve by default. Um, but yeah, bro, what
It's just
was the
about
other thing
correcting
that
that
you asked?
mindset, isn't it? About, yeah, yeah,
Oh yeah, desires thing. Yeah, yeah, the desires of the thing. Look, bro, like if you feel like a boy and you're like late 20s, it just means you probably haven't taken on responsibilities. And because like society and your family hasn't put it on you, and then you haven't taken it on yourself voluntarily, then yeah, you just stayed like a boy. You probably got a job, but then you just serve yourself, like you're saying. So that's wrong. That's wrong. You should take on responsibility. Oh, but I'm not married. Take on responsibility in the form of your parents. Pay
yeah,
pay the bills, pay the rent, pay for your, I don't know, brothers, sisters. Even not paying. Take your brother here, take your sister there. Fix this thing in the house.
yeah,
Tidy your own room. Basic stuff. But like, this is the thing, and this is a big thing in the shepherd's way. Is like, especially in today's world, people will not, you won't get like a fairy coming in the night and saying, excuse me, sir, but you're actually
yeah,
responsible for this and this and this thing. No, you need to
yeah,
stand up and take that on yourself. Say, look, nobody asked me to do this. I will take it upon myself. Think of like Muhammad al-Fatih conquered Constantinople. Did someone like go to him and say, bro, you're actually responsible for conquering Constantinople?
yeah,
No, not at all. He took it upon himself, and hearing the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ and all of that. And he didn't think, oh, someone else can be that guy mentioned in the
yeah.
hadith. He's like, let me be that man. So this is actually, in general, like even back in the day, people take on responsibility. It's not given to them a lot of the time. But especially today, you have to understand as a physical man who feels like a boy that you need to take on
Yeah.
responsibility. It will not be given to you a lot of the time. So that would make you feel like a man. Now, what about financially, though?
Financially is a process, isn't it? But regardless, I think it depends where they are in life, and that's a different story. Whether they find someone who they can provide for or not. I think they should actually speak to or engage with a lot of married men, because young people have a bit of a misconception with how much they might need. What is realistic if they've never had a responsibility before. Like I remember before I got married, speaking to a friend of ours who had got married, who'd moved out, and I literally asked him, right, listen, give me some advice. How much would I need to, you know, just have a place and whatever? And he gave me a number, and I said, okay, cool, let me aim for that. And he gave me like quite a minimum number. He said, anything above this. And he wasn't talking about living comfortably. He said just about to make it. So then you could kind of add whatever you wanted to add on top of that. This was at the time. So I thought, okay, that's kind of the goal I had in my mind. And I remember actually reaching that level and thinking, oh, I can probably move out now, you know? Now, obviously, with me and my wife, I remember saying there was a discussion whether we should like be married and she stays with her family and I stay with mine until I'm, able to get a place together, or she stays with my family until we can get a place together, right? And we opted for the latter option. But this is also something that you might discuss with a potential. You can't really have that discussion now. You can't even, because you're not. You're talking about something that isn't real yet. When he's talking about, am I ready to get married? To whom?
Yeah.
Depends who. Depends what. Well, Maharaman's going to be, right? It depends on what their expectations are. Some women do not mind the thought of even temporarily staying with family, as long as you've got the intention that you want to move out someday, right? And a lot of times it makes practical sense to, all right, let's get together, let's get married, then we can kind of plan together where you want to live, where you want to go, etc. Um, it's actually a lot more easy to even rent a place when you actually are together and you can both put your names down, as opposed, or both view it together, and both, that kind of process, as opposed to the man getting everything sorted out in this climate and then bringing someone along. Like it's very difficult, I think, sometimes to go speak to a estate agent and say,
Hmm.
I need to rent this place. Oh, but you're on your own. How are you going to afford it? Well, blah, 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 and give them a situation. Obviously, if you're quite wealthy, alhamdulillah, and you can buy a place or you've already got a place rented or whatever, that's a different story. But I'm talking about, people that do have some sort of economic hardship. It's a lot easier to plan together, to do these things together. Um, Now, there are some people, no doubt, that don't have any intention of moving out of the family home and will bring the wife and say, this is where we're going to be for as long as possible. I think it's up for the woman then to decide beforehand, is this person genuinely, does a, is does this man have a genuine intention to move out? And is he struggling to do so now? Or is it like a forever thing? I'm going to be in this in-law situation forever. Some cultures are different, right? Um, so yeah, a lot of it's going to be down to that. Um, and the person you're marrying, do they work? Do they not? I'm talking about the woman in this regard. You know, my my potential might not work at all and doesn't want to work. My potential is already working and wants to continue working. My potential has got a job but wants to change to another job. These are all different situations that you're going to have to assess. Um, Not that it absolves a man of a lot of responsibility and being able to
Hmm.
provide, but how eager is that man to provide? Do you get excited with the thought of providing for someone? Does that excite you? It should. You
Yeah.
should. Some people revel in it. Some people love it. The thought of like, oh, seeing something in the shop that my wife might like and surprising her with it, that excites me. I get really excited about that. Does that excite you, brother? Is that something that you're excited to partake in? Does spending money on your family give you a bit
Hmm.
of a apprehension? Yeah. Or does it? Well, yeah, exactly.
A buzz.
That kind of thing, man.
Yeah. I think you know what? You only need to like if you can cover like rent and bills and food, I guess clothing, a bit of clothing for your wife and stuff, then that is the bar. Anything that you might need more than that, you could just leave that to Allah. The only oh, but what about this and what about leave that to Allah. If you're providing those basic things, leave it to Allah. Wallah, because by the time you actually get married and you actually move in and all that, you never know what Allah would have given you by then.
Mm.
In from many different ways, you know, from a better job or a promotion or gifts
I think
or
the
this
danger,
or that, you know.
the
So,
danger, I think, is that
um,
if we kind of
mm,
rewind back
mm,
to the initial question, it seems to focus a lot on desires, right?
yeah,
And I think there is a poison with this
hmm,
because I'm not accusing this brother, but generally speaking, if we're living in a society that is hypersexualized and people are watching pornography and people just like that's all they're thinking about desires, 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 then it eradicates any healthy notion of marriage
yeah,
beforehand. It sets a precedent that you're just doing this to you can't you can't satisfy your desire in any way but marriage. And because of that, you might not give marriage its right upon you because you're only doing it for one thing. You're only seeking it for this one thing. And then once you're
but isn't marriage like a many decades
what one no
process?
no well this is it. But when you're the initial reason to get married is I want to satisfy my desires. And because of that,
Yeah,
could your
yeah.
wife and family or whatever it is be baggage once your desires are satisfied? Could is that a risk that you're and I think we should really be tackling the problem before that, which is are your desires controlling you or are you in control of your desires? Like, are they on your mind 24/7 and that's all you can think about? And because of that, you're just caught in this kind of whirlwind of just, all you can think about is desires, desires, desires. Or are you combating that with, like I said, keeping busy, making sure you've got no, free time in the day, making sure that, you've got hobbies, you've got activities, you've got friends to see, you've got family to help, you've got a part-time project, you've got a
Yeah,
business to, maybe side hustle or business to run, whatever it is. And you're just packing your day with as much to
yeah,
distract you
yeah.
from the notion of ever, delving into things that could actually spark your desires or make them uncontrollable. Because if you're getting to the point where you're
Mm.
messaging someone anonymously about your desires and wanting to get married about your desires, then I think maybe your desires are probably overstepping the bounds of being able to be managed. Because you should be able to know yourself, but to the point where you start asking other people, listen, how do I control my desires? Or is it right that I'm marrying just because of my desires? Maybe you are encroaching into territory here that your desires are a bit out of control. Because everybody should have a healthy level of desire. But does it get to a point where it's like taking over your life
Mm.
that you need to start asking people about it?
I
Yes.
think, I think, I think that very much could. I think it very much could. Like, I don't see that as
Mm.
very abnormal. Um, it's like I'm kind of guessing. Like, it's like if you're
You
hungry,
need to eat.
you get to a point of hunger. You get to a
Right.
point of hunger
Okay.
where it's just distracting. It's like I want to get some work done now, but I've been IFing for a bit too long, and I just, I can't focus without just breaking my fast a little bit.
Yeah.
So, I do see that as reasonable. I think not everyone is like that, but I could see a good portion of young men being like that. But I think what you said is like, look, it's always better to get married from a position of not like really needing it right now and all of that. Yeah, from this point of view, that's always better. How and so what? So whether you're basically, no matter what,
Yeah.
try and get it under control, right? Try and get it under control. And part of that, what we've discussed, is taking on responsibilities. That's going to get you busy. That's going to get you focused on other things. That's going to, get you to
Yeah.
become like that man kind of figure. So take on responsibilities, get some hobbies, help your family out with whatever they need, your parents, this and that. Start a business, start a side hustle. And delete Instagram, delete TikTok. Like if you still got TikTok or Instagram and you're like struggling with your desires, then you're still a beginner phase when it comes to fighting back, I think. So
Yeah.
yeah, make sure you're doing your part regardless, basically, like no matter what, do your part. Lower your gaze and delete these different apps and all of that. and keep yourself busy. And hopefully that will help you so that when you do go and get married, you do have that as a reason, but it's not causing you to like make the wrong decisions and be a bit
Yeah.
desperate and stuff like that. You may still have it though after doing that, but at least you can say
Yeah,
you've done
it's
your part.
dangerous. I think obviously there's a lot of biology into play, and different people have different levels of need and desire. Um,
Yeah,
and I've seen that
yeah.
across the spectrum with a lot of brothers I've speak to about marriage who still aren't married or whatever. Some people just never mention that kind of thing. Some people never mention that side of thing, and they just go off and they get married. Well, alhamdulillah. And some people, it seems like it's all they talk about in relation to marriage is their desires. I think that's what I'm concerned with. And then once they are
Yeah,
married,
yeah.
everything still kind of revolves around that. Like, you know, yeah,
Have you
I've
seen
seen,
that actually happen? I mean, I guess you haven't because, like, do people are people like open about it after
yeah,
they get married?
because
That like,
I've seen, I've seen a bit of everything. I've seen people that are married and not happy, not happy with that side of things and expecting more from their partner
mm,
in terms of physical appearance, in terms of attractiveness, in terms of effort, that kind of thing. I've seen single people as well, like you
okay,
just said about just that's their priority. Like, oh, I want to get married because of my desires, etc., etc., etc. And then I've seen the other side where it's like people that just never even reference that side of things, and they just get married and they live, a quiet, whatever, free life.
well, it's kind
And
of
I think,
embarrassing.
like I said, I think it is down to a lot of like not just psychology, but the biology and the makeup of somebody, and how much that plays a part in their life.
Mm.
But also, I would like to say, yeah, look, at the end of the day, I think it is a fact of life that if you were like to line up like 10 men next to each other and just do tests on them, they'd all have different hormones and different levels and different desires and different whatever. Do you understand? And I know for a fact that I'm not as intense as some other guys are. I just know that. And I don't think I've ever been. And I remember somebody even mentioned that to me once because it wasn't something that I was like, you know, 24/7. Yes, of course. I think my need and my desire was at a healthy and what I would consider a normal level, but not to some not nowhere near what other guys would like talk about 24/7. And you can kind of know what those guys are like because that's all they talk about. Every joke has got to be around that, and every kind of, you know what I mean? Like there's those kind of people that that's it. But the danger is that's all they see marriage for, and there isn't this, you know. There isn't the glue there that's going to keep that marriage healthy and together, etc. And I think that's what's important.
Yeah, but that's where I think what you
Yeah,
mentioned comes in, and that's where the front row comes in, which is um, being spending time with married men. That really I think would make a
absolutely.
big
Yeah,
difference. It would help a lot, just to get that perspective, get that real life thing. And it's not even like asking for advice. It's just like, oh, this friend of mine who's married, he can only link me once a week because
yeah,
he's got stuff going on and he's doing stuff, and I
yeah,
can link
yeah.
every day of the week.
Yeah,
So just
yeah.
sometimes these kind of realizations, like just being aware of that, it's like, okay, well therefore maybe what I could
I
expect when I
honestly
get
think,
married,
bro, like
So
what someone like, I've always thought about this. I think about this a lot because I've got friends that are in this kind of situation, and I think, what could they do differently? And I think, what would I do differently if I could go back? Honestly, because I had phases where I felt like this, I'm sure. And I think, what would I do differently? And honestly, what I would do is, like I said, um, hold down all the responsibilities I have, no matter what they are. But I would have also added more stuff. Yes, I go to the gym like 4 or 5 times a week, whatever. I don't think that's enough. I think I should have also like added actual physical sports that keep me occupied as well. Like whether it is like some sort of team-based sport or football or hockey, whatever I used to do, right? Stuff like that. Like there's a club that I go to, or it's martial arts or whatever. There's something that I go to, there's a project that I'm engaged in, and that physically exerts me, that occupies me, and that has goals that I can achieve and has levels that I can rise in, etc. And I can meet people and I can keep busy. And I don't want like if there's a second of me on my own, I should be exhausted from what I've done all day. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Like I shouldn't have any time to be bored because I should either be tired from everything I've done today or I'm too busy to be bored. And I think that's the way it should be. Um, and that is youth. That is what, that's kind of like the prophetic advice regarding youth about, taking care of certain things before certain things, and taking care of your youth before your old age, and making sure you're either filling it up with good deeds, filling it up with that which is beneficial, getting involved in the masjid. And likewise, you see a lot of the most active people in the masjid are young people. And you should be one of those young people who are in the masjid, who are, with the charity buckets, or volunteering for that charity, or volunteering for cleaning up the masjid, whatever it may be, that kind of busyness. But if you're just at home scrolling Instagram, looking at how the other half live, seeing that which you can't get, seeing that which you're too young for, exercising your desires, it's a problem. It's a problem.
Bro,
Yeah,
volunteering
absolutely.
is so
Yeah.
sick.
Yeah.
It's one of the best things, man.
Yeah.
It's one of the best things. It's kind of a sub reason why I left the UAE, because you can't really hope to get
Mm.
involved in volunteering over there. Yeah, volunteering is amazing, man.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
In more ways than one, you know. Obviously, it give you ajr, it'll keep you busy, you'll develop skills in you. You might, many people got married through that path, through that route.
Dark and twisted intentions,
you
I
know.
mean. Volunteer to find your spouse today.
Obviously, if you're
Some
doing
people do that though,
actually
don't
better,
they?
you
Some
got to
people
have a
volunteer for
good.
charity work just to go, you know, cherry picking or whatever you want to call it. You know
Cherry
what?
picking.
I think we've
Yeah.
I think we might leave it at that in terms of all the questions today. I think we've kind of got a nice cohesive list of some hot topics regarding marriage that people are obviously thinking about. We haven't done one in a while, and there's a new generation of people trying to get married now. So we kind of, in conclusion, we looked at Mahar, didn't we?
Mm.
We looked at those who may not,
Yeah.
who feel like they can't find anybody and nobody may ever come. And we've also looked at the readiness of being married slash the intention of getting married, and the big elephant in the room for a lot of people, which is desires. And is that all it is? Is it all for desires? Is there more to it than that? Um, yeah, you should be excited to have a companion beyond just fulfilling your desires. I think that is the crux of it for me. You should be excited for having a family. You should be excited for starting a family. You should be excited for being responsible over that family. And yeah, I think that at least that felt like the priority for myself. But I do appreciate that other people do have competing priorities that they have to wrestle with a bit more. Yeah, I was watching some other shows. Well, not I wasn't watching these shows, but I see some clips of other dais and stuff that talk about these topics, and they're a lot more front and center with what they're talking about. Yeah, and I'm like, oh,
Really.
I'm a bit more. I like to allude to what we're talking about as opposed to like get black and white with people. um,
I can be more direct. Like if
yeah,
it was like a YouTube video, then I could be more
this
direct.
is a family-friendly
But if it's
show.
like a
My kids might watch this
podcast
in
or
10
like,
years, bro. You know, you never thought about that.
oh yeah,
You
that's
know,
true. That's true.
yeah.
Oh man. Oh no,
That's
I've
what I'm
got a
saying.
daughter now. Oh
What did my
no.
son say to me yesterday or the day before? He said, because he goes to Arabic club, he was like, did you know that so and so said the F word? I was like, we don't say that word. He goes, I don't even know what the F word is. I don't even know what that is. And he literally didn't know because some other kid told him that so and so said the F. So it was like third party information. Yeah, I
Tell him
should
it's
tell him.
France.
I should do that. It just shows you the innocence, bro. But here we go. We're encroaching upon that territory. We have to start
Yeah.
policing, start keeping an eye open for what they're doing, what they're saying. Like,
Allah ya'in. Allah ya'in. Wallah.
yeah. Anyway, I think that's it for today. I know it's a bit short, but midday, I suppose.
Yeah. Jazakallah khair. No, it's sweet. It's sweet. Okay. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Shalla wa la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.
Salam.
Assalamu alaikum.